Charlie, let's talk a little Texans. Last week, Deshaun had some really positive things to say about his new receiving core. The reports are that he's in preliminary talks with the Texans on an extension. John McClain tweeted that he expects the contract to be in the neighborhood of $40 million per. Whew. Max Kellerman gave out a stat 2 weeks ago that over the past 20 years, no quarterback on their second contract has won a Super Bowl. Not downplaying the importance of locking up your franchise quarterback for sure. I mean, he's undisputed their best player they've ever had at the position. Talk about the challenge of surrounding guys around him once he's making $40 million per.
Well, salary cap league and one X factor, pandemic relief, right? The NFL's been basically inoculated to this point. But what if we get to September and it is no more than 25% of fans in stadia, or even 50%? What if the salary cap in the NFL, which has just been a constant skyrocket upward, what if it really flattens out or even recedes for a year or two? And that's when you're jumping into your quarterback's contract, well, doubling plus. Watson's fifth-year option for 2021 would be about $17.5 million. So if we're talking $35 to $40 million per year, they'd probably try to front load a little of that money 2021 or even into this year, given some cap space available. But when you have a pie of fixed size and you need to slice it up so many ways, if Deshaun Watson's commanding $40 million of a $200 million pie as opposed to a $230 million pie, or wherever the cap might max out, the new NFL TV deals kick in. Monday Night Football ends 2021, then everything else after 2022. So maybe later into Watson's contract, you get a big bump up again in the salary cap, diminishing the impact of Watson against the cap in terms of percentage. But the first year or two, when you're also paying Laramie Tunsil record-shattering money as your left tackle, I can't see J.J. Watt getting another top-of-market contract. But hey, Bill O'Brien's the lead negotiator, so who knows? But you have enough guys making $10, $12 million, and you add in a quarterback making $40, it's going to get more difficult for the Texans to ultimately become a Super Bowl caliber team. So a bit of a catch-22. You take Deshaun Watson off the roster, the Texans basically are garbage. But if Deshaun Watson's on your roster making $40 million, hey, Seattle's been very good still in recent years, but with $35 million Russell Wilson, Seahawks haven't sniffed a Super Bowl. When it was $1 million Russell Wilson, $5 million Russell Wilson, well, the Seahawks were more able to build a deep and talented team, all those layers of talent that Bill O'Brien talks about wanting for the Texans. So it is a ticking clock in terms of the Texans being able to more efficiently build a true championship contender.
So you brought up the Tunsil deal. So Deshaun gets his big deal combined with Tunsil's deal, which in 2 years balloons to over $21 million from a cap perspective. That's just from their quarterback and left tackle. They have no first or second round draft picks for next year, but they have plenty of needs on defense. You know, Watt probably falls off the books, like you said. Stills and Fuller may also be gone after this year, but you got to replace at least one of them, considering that, you know, you consider Fuller your wide receiver too. So how realistically can they address the needs specifically on the defensive end?
Whew, boy. Garyon Conley's in the last year of his contract. Bradley Roby is re-upped to $10 million per year. Bernardrick McKinney's probably overpaid at $10 million per year. Might they have to make a decision on a guy like that, especially since they're on record as really wanting to keep Zach Cunningham long term? To do that, he's probably in that $10 million per year neighborhood. You know, you can play the revolving credit card debt game on this, somewhat kicking the can down the road, restructuring contracts. But at some point, it does come home to roost. It basically ended the Cowboy and 49er dynasties going back to the 90s. But they had dynasties to show for it. The Texans have pretty good, those cute little AFC South Division championship banners, and that is it. So they could well be in a serious salary cap box, especially complicated by, as you note, the loss of cheap, presumably good labor, being out a first-round pick 2 years in a row, and then you add being out a second-round pick on top of the first-round pick in 2021. This all funnels into the not absurd concept that Bill O'Brien, to date, a very underwhelming general manager, maybe he's about to blossom into an elite head coach. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. Turning blue and dye doesn't seem very pleasant.